My name is Alina, and if someone had told me years ago that I would destroy my own family for a man who would slowly break me from the inside, I would have laughed in their face. Back then, I believed I understood love. I thought love was attention. Long conversations, gentle hands, sweet words whispered late at night. I thought love was feeling chosen. I was wrong. Everything began with my mother. After my father died, my mom stopped living and started surviving. Her name was Diana. Before the tragedy, she used to sing while cooking dinner, dance barefoot in the kitchen, and laugh so loudly that the whole apartment felt warm. But after losing my father, something inside her disappeared. The house became quiet. Not peaceful quiet, heavy quiet, the kind of silence that sits on your chest and makes breathing difficult. Sometimes I woke up at night and heard her crying behind the bathroom door because she didn't want me to hear. She thought she was protecting me, but children always know when their parents are breaking apart. I was 19 when Victor entered our lives. He seemed perfect. Calm voice, kind smile, confident eyes. He knew exactly what to say and exactly when to say it. My mother smiled again for the first time in years. She bought new dresses, started wearing lipstick again, started listening to music while cleaning the apartment. And I was happy for her. Truly happy. Victor brought flowers home every Friday. He cooked dinner sometimes, fixed broken shelves, made my mother laugh until tears rolled down her cheeks. It felt like light had finally returned to our home. Then slowly, without me noticing, he began turning that light toward me. At first it seemed harmless. He asked about my classes, remembered little things I mentioned weeks earlier, bought my favorite chocolate by accident, listened carefully whenever I talked. No one had ever listened to me like that before. My mother worked long hours and often came home exhausted. But Victor always had time for me. Now I understand that attention can become dangerous when it comes from the wrong person. A year later, my mother married him. The wedding was small and beautiful. She looked radiant in her white dress, happier than I had seen her in years. I remember watching them dance and thinking, we're finally a real family again. I had no idea that this was the beginning of our destruction. After the wedding, Victor became even closer to me. We drank coffee together in the mornings, watched movies late at night while my mother worked overtime. He drove me to university, helped me with assignments, told me I was smart when I doubted myself. I trusted him completely. One evening I came home crying after failing an important exam. I felt worthless, like a disappointment. Victor sat beside me on the couch and gently wiped tears from my face. You are stronger than you think, he said softly. You just need someone who truly sees you. Then he hugged me, and he held me a little too long. Something inside me felt strange in that moment. A quiet warning, a voice deep inside telling me that something was wrong. But I ignored it, because part of me liked the way he made me feel. That was the first mistake. After that night, the messages began. At first they seemed innocent. Did you eat today? Don't stress too much about school. You deserve more credit than people give you. Then the messages changed. You looked beautiful today. I feel closer to you than anyone else. Sometimes I think you understand me better than your mother does. I reread those messages over and over again. Every word made me feel important, wanted, special. I hated myself for enjoying it, but I did enjoy it. Victor started telling me that his marriage was empty, that my mother no longer understood him, that he felt trapped and lonely. Then one night he said the words that changed everything. If I had met you first, my life would have been different. I should have walked away. Instead, I stayed. That is the terrifying thing about manipulation. It rarely begins with cruelty. It begins with comfort, with understanding, with emotional intimacy that slowly crosses every boundary without you realizing it. Soon we started meeting in secret. Small cafes far from our neighborhood. Long drives late at night. Conversations that felt exciting and forbidden. Every lie I told my mother made me sick with guilt. But every time I tried pulling away, Victor would say something that dragged me back. This connection is real. You can't control who you love. We belong together. And I believed him. I was young enough to confuse emotional dependence with love. When I turned 22, Victor confessed that he loved me. Not like a stepfather, like a man loves a woman. I remember feeling frozen, terrified, excited, ashamed. I had a choice that night. I could have told my mother everything. I could have ended it. I could have protected my family. Instead, I chose him. That decision destroyed almost everything. Victor filed for divorce a few months later. My mother didn't understand what was happening. She cried constantly, asked him what she had done wrong, begged him to explain why he had changed so suddenly. And I stood there pretending I knew nothing. Sometimes I think that was the moment I lost myself completely. When the truth finally came out, my mother looked at me as if she no longer recognized me. She came to my apartment late one evening, shaking so hard she could barely speak. "Tell me it isn't true," she whispered. I couldn't answer. The silence said everything. She started crying quietly, not dramatically, not angrily, just broken. "You didn't only betray me," she said through tears. "You destroyed the last thing I still believed in." Those words still live inside me. But even then, I stayed with Victor. We got married a few months later. Almost nobody came to the wedding. Friends stopped speaking to me. Relatives avoided me. People whispered behind my back when I walked through town. But I convinced myself that love was worth any sacrifice. I didn't understand that real love should never require betrayal. The man I married disappeared almost immediately after the wedding. Victor became cold, controlling, cruel. He checked my phone every day, demanded passwords, questioned every conversation I had, told me certain friends were bad influences, got angry if I spent too much time away from home. Little by little, my world became smaller. Then came the insults. "You're too emotional. You would never survive without me. No one else would put up with you." At first I argued back. Then I apologized. Then I became quiet. That is how control works. It does not destroy you all at once. It slowly teaches you to doubt your own thoughts until you no longer recognize yourself. I stopped laughing, stopped seeing friends, stopped dreaming about the future. I became a shadow living beside a man who wanted ownership, not love. One night we had a terrible fight. Victor screamed at me for almost an hour because I didn't answer my phone while grocery shopping. He slammed his hand against the wall beside my head so hard that the picture frame behind me shattered. For the first time, I felt truly afraid of him. Not emotionally afraid, physically afraid. I grabbed my coat and ran out into the rain. I walked for nearly an hour with tears mixing with cold water on my face. And eventually, without even thinking about it, I ended up standing in front of my mother's house. I stared at the door for a long time before knocking. No answer. I knocked again. Finally the door opened. My mother stood there looking tired, older than I remembered, her eyes filled with pain I had caused. The moment I saw her, I collapsed. I told her everything. The manipulation, the control, the fear, the lies, the humiliation. The way Victor had isolated me from everyone until I felt completely dependent on him. And for the first time in years, my mother simply listened. When I finished crying, she looked at me quietly and said, "Now you finally understand." I fell to my knees begging for forgiveness. She didn't hug me immediately, but she stepped aside and let me inside. And that small act of mercy saved my life. Leaving Victor was difficult. He called constantly, sent messages, threatened me emotionally, told me I was weak, told me nobody else would ever love me. But his words no longer had power over me. For the first time, I could see him clearly. I started therapy soon after the divorce. Therapy forced me to confront painful truths about myself, about loneliness, about emotional manipulation, about the desperate need to feel chosen and valued. Healing was slow. Some days I hated myself for what I had done to my mother. Some days I hated Victor. Most days I hated the version of myself who stayed silent when everything still could have been saved. But healing does not begin when the pain disappears. Healing begins when you finally face the pain honestly. My relationship with my mother recovered slowly. Very slowly. Sometimes we sat together in silence because neither of us knew what to say. Sometimes she cried in the middle of conversations. Sometimes she looked at me with sadness that made my chest ache. And I accepted it, because forgiveness is not instant. Real forgiveness is painful. One afternoon she placed a cup of coffee in front of me and quietly asked, "Are you eating properly these days?" I burst into tears. Because that simple question contained more love than every beautiful lie Victor had ever told me. Today I am 32 years old. I live in a small apartment with blue walls, too many books, and plants near every window. My mother visits almost every Sunday. We cook dinner together, watch old movies, and laugh louder than we used to. Sometimes we still talk about the past. Sometimes we cry. But now there is honesty between us. And honesty heals things that silence destroys. I no longer confuse control with love. Real love does not isolate you. Real love does not manipulate you. Real love does not demand betrayal. Real love does not make you afraid. Real love makes you feel safe enough to remain yourself. That is what I know now. And if my story helps even one person walk away from someone dangerous before it's too late, then maybe all this pain had a purpose. My name is Alina. I made terrible mistakes. I lost myself. I nearly lost my mother forever. But somehow, after everything, I found my way back home. And that became the beginning of my real life.